the latest with Eric Johnson and Jeff Skinner?
Erik had a rehab skate today and is still sore. Skinner went full go in practice, and I'll find out exactly what that means. It is definitely good. He went through practice very well and would expect very, very soon, if not tomorrow.
Is Erik going to go on a trip with you guys?
Not determined yet, but the plan is that he is. So unless we discuss something different now after the skate, which I haven't, the plan was to have him on the trip.
Devon went to Rochester. What do you plan to maybe use him this week now?
Yeah, we play a back-to-back, so there's a good chance that he'll get one of those 2 games. So yes.
And just that decision. Obviously, he hadn't played in a while. He wanted to get him a game. Can you just explain the decision, I guess?
Yeah. Well, just what you said. He hadn't played in a while, and to get him, obviously, Rochester as a resource we've talked about. Good for him to get a game in the event he does play in one of the 2 back-to-back we have coming up. He's been in the net recently, so that's a positive.
In what ways have you seen Casey take another step this season? Particularly at 5-on-5. I know this dates really to just about 13 months ago, but it just seems like the consistency, he's just taken that next step.
This has been a progression for him and lots of work for lots of years, really, coming to the forefront. But, what underlines it, other than the work, is compete. He is a ultra competitive person and very, very driven to succeed. And, he is in the moment. The moment, Matt, there is no, darn it, I missed it, I'll get it tomorrow. He is very dissatisfied if he doesn't get it now. And every puck battle, every shot, every play. When I think of all the great players I've ever been around and watched, one separating factor is the moment matters most to those guys. There is no tomorrow. There is no waiting. It's I want to make a difference now. And Casey has that, and that's been a driver for him.
His versatility, the skill set, the consistency, what does that do for you as a coach when it comes to building a lineup? Because you've been able to move him around to help other guys, and it just seems like he's just been that sort of versatile piece that you've been able to use.
He's been shifted around not because we don't know where to put him. He's been shifted around because we need him here, we need him there, we need him there, and that's why he's been shifted. There's been an identity between if we talk about line combinations, there's been an identity with the Tuck Thompson Skinner line for a couple of years now, and obviously the Cousins Peterka and Quinn line, and unfortunately that hasn't happened yet for Middlestead with a trio and a combination. And in the process, for me, I know I have a guy that's obviously as talented as that statistically that speaks for itself, what he's done in comparison to elite players in the league. So within games and within situations, I just shift him where it felt, we need a nudge. And he's been pretty reliable in that regard.
With JJ, what's driving his breakthrough as far as production, and where do you see the trajectory with this guy? He's only 22.
Yeah, he's still very young, even young at heart, young in spirit. So every day you see him mature as a person more and more. But situational awareness is so much better than a season ago for him. He's recognizing situations. I think he's learning the other side of the game other than offense, which is going to get him more offense. I mean, the less you spend defending or in the defensive side of the game, the more you're going to have the puck, the more you're going to be on offense. And I think he's made really significant strides in that regard. I don't think his confidence is at peak right now, as a goal scorer. And I think that's, the positive side of that is it's driving him, it's driving his appetite more and more. And but again, he's a young guy going through ups and downs, but definitely building a foundation better and stronger every day.
As far as defending, and of course Ukko also, you've only given up 3 goals in 4 games plus 1 empty netter. I mean, but yet you only won 2 of those 4 games. Is it almost shocking that you defend that well and get that good goaltending, and you can only get 2 wins out of those 4.
Yeah, it's disappointing, obviously, to be 500 and you give up, 3 goals. Like you said, the fourth being an empty netter, but 3 goals in 4 games. It's crazy, especially when you consider our team. But once again, this is we haven't made system changes here. We've emphasized different things, but the system is still the same. So when you're emphasizing, concentrate, dedicate your focus and concentration here more, it demands their focus. It's not innate. It's not instinctive yet. As we just talked about JJ, defending is not instinctive for goal scorers and for players. But so you've got to go through a process, unfortunately, that's a conscious process. And sometimes when you go through that, it demands all your attention because it's a conscious process that you miss the chance the other way or the opportunity the other way. And in the long run, it's a necessity for us to have a different shift our focus to defending better. We certainly get pucks back quicker, but we haven't to this point converted like we believe we can and like we have seen us do. And I've mentioned too many times that little bit of mojo, that little bit of confidence is what we seem to miss. We identify with obviously how to defend and how to do that well. Is that preoccupying us? Could be, but this is a process that we absolutely need to go through, and but it is disappointing to not win games when you're giving up as few as we've given up.
With the schedule the way it's been with the weather and all those interruptions and everything, how difficult has that made it for Devon to be able to stay in a flow as a young guy, learning the league and trying to stay consistent?
Yeah, I mean, the schedule last week was, like I mentioned, it felt like COVID, with game cancellations, and you're sitting at bay waiting. But you move on the next day quick, so that seems like it was a long time ago, actually, now. I think Devon keeps himself ready. Like I said, Rochester, him going to Rochester for a game, what a great resource to be able to do that. So I think he's where he needs to be. Enough rest, obviously, and work, the combination, and I think he's ready to go when to be called upon.
Is that kind of? I mean, it hasn't really interrupted a lot of like the game schedule for him, but for the amount of starts that you want to give him, and for a guy his age that in this position, has any of that kind of gotten in the way, or is it just this is part of the process?
Yeah, even when you're not. I mean, if you got every start, you'd say, "Oh my God!" Compared to college hockey, this guy's going to wear out, and So if you give him whatever you do because he's a young player, there's going to be, what would the alternative do? It's just that's the way life is. That's the way it is. So you just have to make best you have to make sure every day you're making best of what's in front of you, what you have, and whether that's a practice or a game or dealing with an injury or dealing with this adversity or that challenge. Like it's all gaining experience. So I don't feel, you can draw up a plan for any player and team, but once the season starts, it's a plan you drew up. You got to read and react in the moment because it's so dynamic, as you're referring to. But I think he, in the process with Devon, we want to make sure he keeps developing. And I think we've used different resources to make sure he's developing. And sometimes that resource is rest. But I think he's gained, for every day he's been here, he's made himself better some way or another, is how I look at it.
You mentioned after the game on Saturday that guys going to the net is a character trait that some guys have. I'm curious, in your experience, if you think that's a trait guys can develop once they're at this level.
It is. Every guy comes in, especially goal scorers, and they have in their mind how they scored goals. And maybe it was this specific spot on a power play, and they remember, or this, and they go to those areas. And that's one way to score. But if you want to score more, there's different ways to score too. Add those to your game, and that is a process. That's an evolution. But as I mentioned, there are certain guys that just, innately, this is where I score goals, off my shin pad, off my skate, off my elbow. I just go to the net. That's where I score goals. And you see that style of player in the league. And, other guys you see score different ways, but you will definitely add to your goal production going to the net. I also mentioned the other night, I'm certain of it, that, you do have to play on the perimeter, know how to play on the perimeter. You also have to get off the perimeter and to the inside. And it's a lot of timing when it comes to goal scoring. There's not much today there's much more flash screens and different types of rebounds than there was 15 years ago in the league. And you just see it all over the league. So the speed of the game, the way the game's changed, the way penalties are called, net front and stuff like that, just different. So, I think every player has to figure out ways to add to their game, and all our guys are no different.
I asked you about Pete the other day, and you mentioned the plateau. I mean, what is the next level for him when he gets off that plateau? I mean, we've seen, obviously, he can be his offensive, smarts and that sense a lot most guys don't have. I mean, I guess what is the next step for him? I guess.
Yeah, I think more strength, physical strength, and just growing and developing the strength, because he when he can buy himself an extra second through a battle, lanes start opening up, and that's one area. I think overall just situational knowledge, situational awareness as he goes through a situation. Sometimes a player doesn't realize that that's the same situation. It's a pattern situation. It's happened 1,000 times in your career. Just wait half a second here, and that seam will open up, or this will open up, or this option will come. And I think he's come a long ways on that situational awareness just this year alone. And I think you'll see his confidence grow significantly with that. But I think for him, he's that physical strength. To be able to hold a guy for half a second or fight through a battle half a second, he's willing to. There's no question. He's a competitive guy, but I think that's an area that you will see growth in him, in his game.